for people to come on in, and then we will get started. I'm going to invite a few of you up to the stage here as well in the interim.
Hey, Rico. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Christian, welcome, man. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Just like been a busy couple weeks, but excited to hear what's going on in the project. So
Yeah, I think everybody that went to ETH Denver last week, at least 50% of them came down with COVID because everyone seemed to be out. I kept hearing that story again and again, but it must have been a great event. I'm sorry I wasn't there.
yeah, that's what I heard. Pretty big showing this year.
All right, for all of you who are here on time at the top of the hour, thank you for being on time. Let's wait just a couple of minutes and then we will get started, but I won't hold it too long. Stage on these calls have pretty good insights into what's going on around the community, and this is a great chance to get information out there. So don't be shy. All right, my name's Rico Flan. I've been with the project for a while now. I was not part of the Genesis set, unfortunately, but I have been here since shortly thereafter. Looking back, this is day 109 days since we announced the project to the world. And as I'm always saying, still early days. The current epoch is 127. Genesis happened a little earlier than the announcement to the public. This week we have a total of 68 validators. That's down from 84 last week. And actually, that's not bad news. That's good news because what we were able to do this last week is identify a few of the people that were running multiple validators and politely ask them to cease doing that. And they were kind enough to comply without too much hassle. So, here at OL, what we try to do is we try to spread out that validator set to where it has good diversity. Not only geographically, but data center wise. We want people from the global south. We want big companies. We want individuals. We want diversity in that validator set. And so as a result, we do have a policy against people running more than one validator. So that was one of the accomplishments of this last week, and it explains why that validator number is down. Just as a reminder for those of you who aren't familiar with the technical architecture, the maximum number of validators in this project is 100, hence the importance of the diversity. In terms of current Carpe installations, we actually have a steady number on our live Carpe installations this week, seeing at just over 1,200. We are going to be talking later today with Zucky about some changes that are coming up to Carpe that I think will probably drive further adoption of that app. Still decent numbers. Discord community, that's this last week, we put on about 24 people into the community. That is a slow but steady growth rate. We like that because the reality is when you look at the stats, we're doing a better job of retaining people and converting people into speakers right now. So in other words, not big numbers, but people who are engaged, which is fabulous. That's what we want here. And since our last meeting last week, there's been good progress on a couple of fronts. First, that issue about taking care of our multiple validators, people running multiple validators was a biggie. Second, getting some community consensus around priorities in the development space was a big topic this week, and something that Zucky will be speaking with in a little bit. Otherwise, a fairly quiet week news-wise. Again, between ETH Denver and people getting COVID at ETH Denver, things did slow down a little bit. All right, so that's the roundup on the state of OL. What we're going to do now is go around to the different working group archivists and get an update from them on what is happening with their working groups. Christian, since you are here, let's start with you. Tell us what working group you're reporting on and what is going on there.
Sure. So first on the governance working group, just a couple items that we're working on. One is sort of like kind of discovery around potentially having a validator scorecard and sort of what might go into this. Another item we're looking at is just like getting potential input feedback from sort of our SIPs on how the team's proposal might affect them. And then finally, kind of working on guardrails or a plan around implementing guardrails for how we use Discord for signaling to kind of get a sense from the community on how they feel about various proposals. So just kind of three top level items from governance. Another working group, the engineering working group, and Rico, I appreciate you covering for me yesterday here. I'm just gonna kind of quickly maybe do some high levels from your notes because I know Zaki's going to be speaking as well. Work on the bridge by Coin 111 is continuing to kind of help him with different aspects of this. There's also a call for workers on Gitcoin to kind of get us some more kind of capabilities there. The Make Whole project continues to go. I think it's been going on for a bit now, and I think the focus is kind of figuring out a way to close this out as expeditiously as possible. And potentially looking at creating a bounty that might be sponsored by Inclusion to do this. Yeah, I think those were the big items. I think the Carpe app, I think Zaki's going to potentially speak to. Yeah, so these were the kind of high level items Rico I'm seeing from your notes. If I missed anything, let me know. I appreciate you covering yesterday for me.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. That's what we do here. And thanks for that. Let's see. The analytics working group has shifted to meeting every 2 weeks, and there was no meeting last week, so there's no update from that group today. They will be meeting again this Friday, and then every other Friday thereafter. So if you have an interest in what the analytics working group is doing, drop by and see what's happening there. I've got the meeting minutes for the branding and comms group. The branding and comms meeting last week was a fairly short one. The work on establishing the actual OL brand and formalizing that from colors, fonts, logos, and then subsequently working on brand voice is progressing. We are in the middle of sort of the design cycles and review cycles on that, so we don't have outputs to share with the community today. However, the branding and comms working group does meet right after the weekly meeting. So there will be some progress on that today, I expect. So keep an eye out. We're all looking forward to that. It'll allow us to have a bit of a more attractive website and start seeing some more visual identity or some more consistency in our visual identity in the way that we present to the world. So a small matter to some of you, but a big matter to some people, including potential partners that we're engaging with right now, just to project that this is a professional community that does care about quality is important. I am also doing the update this week for the coordinators group. The archivist wasn't able to join it. Oh, sorry, no, that's incorrect. The Hustle Karma working group I'm picking up the update for. The archivist Comstark wasn't able to join us today. Hustle Karma continues to move apace. That working group has been firing on all cylinders and making quite a bit of progress. We have adopted the new OL handbook as the place for publishing our monthly reports, and our February reports are now out. If you go to handbook.0l.network, you'll see the wiki installation that we're using for the community handbook. And there is a working groups section. If you click on those working groups, there is there's a Hustle Karma section. If you click on the reports option in the Hustle Karma section, you'll be able to see the monthly reports for how much has been paid out every month, what tasks are in process, what tasks have been completed. And it just gives us a new layer of transparency, or a new level of transparency for what's happening with those coin flows to pay out for bounties and missions. The other big news that came out of the Hustle Karma working group was Wade, who I don't see here, unfortunately. Wade, I was going to give him a shout out. He's just going to have to believe me. Wade has been doing some really good work coordinating with Gitcoin to get bounties from OL Network into the Gitcoin system. We've already had our first couple of proposals for work go out. We've had a couple of workers come in already. We've already had some work completed. So this is a big deal because it gives us more reach into the developer community, access to more qualified developers, and also more visibility for the OL brand. So a really great piece of work by Wade. We're looking to expand that integration. And of course, it's all a bit tricky because we don't have price discovery on the underlying OL token. So we have to, we're not able to integrate smoothly with traditional Gitcoin payment mechanisms. But they've been really great about working with us. Leon, who's part of this community, is also a senior person at Gitcoin and has been helping grease the rails and smooth things for us. So shout out to Leon as well. Expect to see us expanding our Gitcoin presence. And that's pretty much the big update from the Hustle Karma working group. A reminder, that group meets on Tuesdays at 9:30 Pacific if anybody wants to join. And there's plenty of work to do. We'd be happy to see you there. And then finally, the coordinators working group. I'm also the archivist there, so that one is mine to do today as well. The coordinators working group has been really struggling to find a time that works for all of our various coordinators. As you may or may not know, the coordinators work as a meta working group. In other words, it's comprised of the people who take the coordinator role from all the other working, or else is interested in being there. So it's actually quite important that we find a time that works for all those people. It's one of the few working groups that lacks real flexibility in its scheduling. Nonetheless, we did have a quorum this last week, and we did talk about a couple of things that are very closely tied to what Christian was discussing with the governance working group. Primarily, what is the right priority for development for the community right now? What are the right priorities? And what is the right sequencing of those priorities so that we're efficient about this and we're taking care of dependencies as needed? Those discussions are ongoing. You're going to hear Zucky talking a little bit about some of those outputs today. But if you have an interest in such things, I really strongly encourage you to attend the governance working group in particular, and secondarily, the coordinators working group. Both of those are tackling really sort of community roadmap issues, if you will. In fact, we even discussed a community roadmap last week. And it's really a good place to engage around the longer vision for this group. And again, it is early days, but that also means we're still struggling with things like establishing an appropriate governance mechanism that creates proper balance of power in the community. We're in the process of establishing a signaling mechanism that can express community intent, and eventually moving to an on-chain governance model. So if you have an interest in DAO formation, if you have an interest in decentralized governance, now's a really good time to engage because these discussions are increasing dramatically, and we're starting to take some steps forward. So it's super interesting stuff. It's actually quite difficult stuff in the sense that, large scale DAOs are really still an architecture that's in stage. It's the infancy of that business structure. There are a lot of open questions about how to set those up and make those work properly, how to govern them responsibly, and how to make sure that we are being inclusive of all the stakeholders in this project. So if you've got experience in that area or even merely interest, we would love to see you in those working groups. A reminder, all of the working group schedules are under the events tab in Discord at the top of your navigation bar. We also have a shared community calendar. If you go to the community calendar channel in Discord, you can subscribe to that. It's a Google Calendar. You can subscribe to that, and that'll just drop all of the community events into your calendar for you to keep up with. That's a much easier way, frankly, than using Discord. I think that covers the working group roundup. So, Zucky, I'm going to be handing over to you in just a second.
I'm ready to go.
All right, are you ready to go? Well, then I'm going to shut up and welcome Zucky Manny into the stage. Go for it.
All right. Okay. So if you want some of the context of what I'm talking about, I recommend checking out the conversation in the Teams delegation channel. What we're seeing is very exciting, which is the emergence of politics inside of OL, which is always kind of a good sign. If there is politics, that means that there is something to worth I guess, fighting over. And so people are perceiving this network as valuable and are debating about the future of it. Well, why do we have to have it? So I'll just frame why we have to have a debate over it. Okay, so I'd say a couple of things are true. One is I'd say the growth in the number of Carpe users is somewhat less than satisfactory or less than expectations. I think we can plainly say that we would like there to be about maybe 10x the number of Carpe users to really feel happy with where we are. And one of the reasons why that isn't the case is that Carpe users don't get a lot of coins and rewarded for running Carpe right now. And so, discussions about that sort of led to this creation of this idea of teams and of the ability for Carpe users to be much more involved in the sort of core consensus mechanism, and then potentially get, depending on how that works out, a larger amount of fees. But this question is also related to a bunch of other things that are slightly that are all commingled. Everything about what we're probably working on about is in terms of development, economics are all integrated into one thing. So another thing that's observed is that slow wallets are completely non-transferable. So validators, community wallet recipients, all of this stuff are all their coins are currently all locked. And it's pretty clear that there's, in the documentation for the project, we talked about unlocking after 100 epochs. We are past 100 epochs and our coins are still unlocked. Now, if you go into the source code, you see that we have that coins are actually locked for 1,000 epochs. And 1,000 epochs is a really suboptimal outcome for this project even if the slow wallets cannot participate in, it gives people very little incentive for participating in community projects, in getting funds from the community wallets. So there's been this soft expectation that would also change. And then the third thing that also reflects our Carpe users is our Carpe users are not getting. There were a large number of early Carpe users who didn't get the expected rewards because of a bug in the Carpe reward distribution system. And this is this project called Make Whole. So I kind of view all these things as as commingled. And I guess the fourth piece is, there's this question of what is the role for our social impact partners, our early validators that have been supporters of the network who are sort of not-for-profits, and how should they be engaged in the network? and how will the release of teams affect them? Are they sort of ready to participate in the ready to participate in this sort of delegation race that will happen around teams? And then like the last thing is really like what is the future of the subsidy model once we reach 100 validators? It seems like a weird thing to a certain extent for we do see a line of sight on getting to 100 validators. But at that point, all of the mechanisms, whether it's Carpe rewards or the Carpe rewards or the validator subsidy is what's filling the community wallets right now. All of these mechanisms just sort of stop and we reach a steady state, though people drop out of the validator set. And so there's a lot of sort of discussion about how, I think it's reasonable to assume that we would want, we're expecting changes to the economic mechanism. So this is largely the scope of, I think, a lot of engineering work in the near future. The scope of engineering work in the near future is going to be trying to change these mechanisms, which are sort of not technically neutral and have sort of implications on political and monetary policy. That would be that's kind of what I think of as the state. Now, my proposal is that we a little bit kick the can down the road on some of this stuff, and focus mainly on getting make whole done and changing the slow wallet parameters. If we don't change changing the slow wallet parameters, I think both of these things will have a substantial impact on community growth, just on their own, which should be our primary objective right now. And then I'm not suggesting sort of halting the teams thing, but we need to come to some sort of we need to come to an agreement about how we expect what we expect teams to do. And then there's going to be an ongoing conversation about what are the economics of the system sort of going forward. And anything we decide about teams, I think also has a sort of equivalent impact on what are the expected economics going forward. So those are my it's kind of what I'm suggesting. Now, one of the things that there is East Agile has made a pull request to add transfers to Carpe. Now, Carpe users who are not Carpe users have the sort of non-slow wallet values. So some people have accumulated an amount of transferable coins, and I think that makes sense. And I think that would then play into providing a user interface if we can start unlocking the community wall, the sort of the slow wallets that are recipients of community funds, community spends, and allowing those to start participating in that economy as well. So that's my sense of what our priorities are. I don't really have anything else. Rico, did that cover what you implied?
No, that's cool. I want to poke at that just a little bit to drill down some and also provide some more context for some people who may not be aware of some of the nuance of some of those issues. So let's start with some basics. First off, slow wallets. You've probably been hearing more and more about them. Slow wallets, basically, they are time locked, and then they have daily withdrawal or daily transfer limits after the time lock releases. Two categories of users hold slow wallets in the OL network. Validators, which is a good thing because validators typically are the whales in the network, and you want to restrict their ability to churn coins. And second is people who receive payments from community wallets are also trapped in slow wallets. Sorry, trapped is probably a bit of a judgy word. So that means that the people who are going through our Hustle Karma system and completing missions and are getting paid coins from out of community wallets, they're actually locked up. They can't use those coins until the time lock releases, and then they're subject to daily withdrawal limits. The original design of the system was to release the slow wallets at Epoch 100 and provide a 1,000 coin a day withdrawal limit. And Zaki, if I've got any of this wrong, correct me. But subsequently, there was a change made that kicked that down the road to Epoch 1000 with a daily limit of 1,000 tokens as well. That's where we are right now. And Zucky highlighted all of the why that's suboptimal, particularly for the hustle karma workers. But the balance we need to strike is how do we throttle the whales and free the small coin balance holders? And so there's a discussion going on right now about setting an earlier trigger release date on that time gate. And there's a discussion about what amount of daily transfer limits would achieve the goal of throttling the whales, but also free up all of the small wallet holders. And Zucky, how difficult is that change? Do we have to make a code change, or is that more like a configuration change? What's the lift associated with making that change?
I mean, it is a relatively small code change. It does require a standard library upgrade, so an on-chain vote by the validators to upgrade to a new version of the standard library. But then we can, but it's like the time lock date is the time lock epoch is like a one line of code change.
Cool, and perhaps not trivial, but not a major lift. Then for the adding the transfer functionality to Carpe itself, like you said, we've got a pull request that East Agile has been working on. I guess that's under review right now. That'll be cool to see. And so that's the second issue. And then the third issue relating to delegation and to teams. That also requires changes to Carpe, right? So that the Carpe users can select their teams and join the teams of their choice. Do we know what the state of that work is?
I have no idea.
Okay, cool. So certainly that's something we need to sort out before Teams gets implemented. Similarly, for Teams to be successful, as I understand it, we need to make sure that the Carpe miners have enough information to make a decision about which team captain they want to follow. And yeah, of course, they can make that decision based on the percentage of the share from that team captain. But that's not what we want them to make their decision solely on, right? We want them to make their decision on a variety of qualitative factors, not simply chase the money. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement.
And so, to that extent, then the validator scorecard that's been under discussion in the community is critical. We need to get that out there so that there's a set of objective data about validator performance that lets the Carpe miners make good informed decisions. And I know that that's something that a couple of people in the community have taken a run at. I know Tejas has been involved, Technique's been involved, Odie's been involved, and we're sort of looking for a home for that validator scorecard. Right now, there's some conversation about perhaps the analytics working group owning the validator scorecard. I mean, it kind of seems to be right in their wheelhouse. But if there's anyone on this call, oh, sorry, Shashank, you also have looked at this. I should have mentioned that too. If there's anyone on this call that feels passionate about helping drive the validator scorecard through to completion, or sort of being the shepherd of the validator scorecard, really stick up your hand, reach out to myself, to Zucky, or to Wade, and let's have a conversation about that, because it doesn't really make sense to launch Teams until that validator scorecard is out there and the Carpe miners have the tools to be able to make changes from team to team in an informed fashion. So those were sort of my thoughts, just to sort of flesh out what you were saying, Zucky. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right, cool. Any questions from the audience? Just put up your hand. I'll invite you up to the stage. Gotcha, Ashix. Go right ahead.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Not really a question. It's just to give an information. I think you had a question about the team proposal implementations. I think today the phase one is part of a pull request made by UD. And on the Carpe side, it is partially implemented. So that's where we are today.
I'm sorry, you said on the Carpe side it is partly implemented. Is that what you said?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
not
cool.
pushed. It's still a pull request. I can send you the links
Cool.
privately. But in the Libra side, it's implemented, and in the Carpe side, it's partially implemented.
All right, that makes sense. Thanks for that update. Yes, and for those of you in the community who've been seeing more of ASICS around, he's taken over management of the project board over on GitHub, which has been an awesome thing to do. So thank you for that. Is there anyone else that has questions or comments that I'd like to add to this discussion? All right, well then I'm going to get ready to call this to a halt. Short meeting this week, but hopefully lots of good information about what's going on the dev side of things. We do invite other opinions on this subject, and the team's delegation channel in Discord is the place to jump in and engage around this. If you disagree, or even if you agree and want to add a voice of concurrence, please jump in there and do so. This is something that is a work in progress. This is a community-driven project. So your opinions do count here, and we do want to hear them. Thank you all for coming. Join us again next Wednesday. We're still lining up the guest speaker for next Wednesday, but we'll have somebody up there so you don't just have to listen to me. Have a great week, everybody, and thanks for being involved in OL. Bye-bye.